Alright, I ran some errands and forgot to update for a little bit, but here's what I've got so far. So I picked up a piece of 1" by 1/8" flat bar, and that is resting on the uprights basically. So the top of that flat bar is flush with the top of the uprights. Then I took my top plate and lined it up and tacked it in place. And so now what I'm doing is I'm bending the piece for the middle here. So basically 2 bends. We have the 19 inches in the middle and then 3 inches on each side. So I'm going to go ahead and bend that up right now. Now I'll show you what it looks like. So this is just the piece cut. So it's 25 inches and mocked up. So we have a 19-inch centerpiece and then the lines marked, and you can see I marked them each with a 45-degree angle, which is what it should be. And thankfully I have the piece that I cut out right here, which I can use as a template just to make sure my bends are on point, and then get that piece in. And then I also have one other piece. I need to cut one more. This is 27 and 13/16, and this is going to also have 2 bends on it, and it's going to make up the outer section over there. So going from the middle all the way over to the edge. I've covered this in other videos as well, but I'm going to use my homemade press brake here. So when bending this, I line up my mark with the center of the top die, of course, and then I use this angle finder, and we want half of the degree. So because I'm bending it 45 degrees, I want to see 22.5 on there, and that's when I know I'm good. So I'm just going to crank the handle down until we get to 22.5. Actually, I'm going to go maybe 2 degrees over because it always relieves a little bit. So I'm going to go, like, let's say 24, 24.5, maybe 25, somewhere in there, and see how it goes. All right, so we got this pretty darn close. I need to take the edges off the template, which is also going to serve as the bottom of this piece. So I'm going to take the inside edges off of that to round it out a little bit to match the bend, and it should fit right in there. Alright, so I got the center section piece bent up, tacked to the bottom section, and then tacked to the top section here. So now I'm going to start work on one of these side pieces that goes and wraps around the edge. I use my little angle finder here to get the angle. I know the first one is 45, and then whatever this is, I'm going to go measure it, and then finish laying out my bends, bend that up, and come over here and get that fitted. I love it when I'm able to nail the bend on the first try. So it's a 37.5 degree bend, and eyeballing it, I freaking got it pretty much right on. That's rad. Alright, the side piece has been tacked on. Fit up really well here. So one thing to make a note of when you're doing these tacks, make sure to do something to protect the paint of your truck. So I use cardboard a lot, which generally works pretty good. But yeah, just put something up there to make sure that when you're tacking and welding on it, that it's not going to melt your paint. Of course, when you do your final welding, take the bumper off because, you know, you can get away with tacking it on here, but welding it on here is a lot more harsh on the paint. Alright, so last night we got both sides tacked up on this. So what I'm going to do now is build the piece that's going to go down here on the bottom, and that's going to be bent back, or basically it's going to kick back at a 45-degree angle, and I'm going to use some of this 2" flat bar that I picked up. So what I'm envisioning is there's actually going to be 2 bends down on the bottom here, or basically 2 sections of 2" to wrap out the bottom of this bumper. And then I'm going to start figuring out how to mount up the actual swing arm for this. Alright, so this first piece of 2" flat bar is tacked in place. So what I'm basically going to do is put another one that comes down, and this one is going to kind of close this gap, so that way from the back you won't be able to see these like little frame rails or anything, and it's basically going to come down to about the same height as this. So yep, that's the plan. Alright, here we go. I got the second piece on the bottom. You can see, as I mentioned, it basically goes down far enough to cover up that lower frame rail and basically more or less to where the bottom of the bedside is. So now time to fill in this corner. I'm also going to make a cut down here from basically point to point, and I'm going to tuck this in a little bit because right now, based off the curvature of the bedside, it's a little bit far away right here. So I'm going to try to get closer to that bedside, and then we can start coming up with a template for this corner. All right, so you can see here I cut down this line. I actually did not fully cut through the top and bottom, and that allowed me to pretty easily bend this over. And basically I'm just trying to match it with the body line. And so if we look from various angles, it should line up about as good as we can expect. So the only good way to do this is basically to make templates of the pieces that you need. So I'll generally put cardboard in here, trace it up. So then I'll cut out this little triangle here and I will tape it in place here. And then I will make a template for my second piece, which is going to go up here and connect all these. And we'll see how that looks. And if it looks good, I will cut those out of 1/8" steel and put them on, and then see if the same pieces fit up on the other side. And if not, make some just slightly different ones. So when doing these pieces, because I made this bend, it basically ends up that I get a kind of compound angle in here. So I was able to put an angle in this cardboard. That'll basically be my bend line, and that goes from point to point up here. So I have, you know, this whole piece that I'll cut out of one thing of 1/8" steel, and I'll bend it along this line to come up and meet up with this corner and come down. But overall, that bottom corner looks pretty good. All right, so we have all the pieces for the corners. I eyeballed them, but I think they matched up quite well. Let's see. So here's this one, and you got that angle on the bottom and on the top, and this is the one that actually fits less good, but you know what? I think that freaking works. So I'm gonna get these tacked in place, and after this we can start putting the swing bar in place. All right, so I wanted to add some support to both the lower sections of this bumper and just holding it back, you know, in case I was to get rear-ended or something like that, of course. So I took some 3/16 plate that I have, some 3.5, and basically first made a cardboard template, as you saw before. So I came in here, figured out the bends and everything to make a cardboard template, and then got the angles I needed, and yeah, did this. So I'm gonna go ahead and tack this on, and this will basically hold the back on. And then eventually I'm also going to make some pieces that come out here to the far corner of the bumper and come in and tie into these frame rails as well. All right, both of the frame supports have been welded onto the bottom now that I showed you. So what I've done is I've figured out where the spindle is going to go, drilled a pilot hole, and I'm basically going to hole saw that out. It's an 1.5" hole. And what I've also done, just to make sure everything should line up, is I've taken my latch assembly here. So basically, this piece is going to mount onto the bed, like, and this is going to be a handle that latches and unlatches as needed. So I just need to line everything up and yeah, drill out that spindle and start fabricating the arm. Swing away, pull this, pull back on the handle, boom,